Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Learning English Podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jessica.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell.
So you don't miss out on any of our future episodes.
Today, we are going to be talking about the weather,
Yes, we are.
which is something that you might think is very, very simple.
Basic.
Basic.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really great way to practice English
It is.
because everybody talks about the weather,
It's true.
and it's a really, really easy way to get into a conversation with somebody.
Yeah. Small talk.
Small talk. Exactly.
It's a universal topic.
It is a universal topic.
Like, it doesn't matter where you are, you can always talk about the weather.
So we've got some material here.
Okay.
And we're going to start off with some just basic weather terms.
Right.
You know, the kind of building blocks of talking about the weather.
Great.
So we've got things like sunny, cloudy, rainy, stormy, windy, snowy, foggy.
Yeah, all the basics.
All the basics.
The essentials.
But then, there are also some more colorful terms that we can use.
Yes, more descriptive.
Yes, descriptive, like, instead of you saying it's hot,
Right.
you could say it's boiling hot.
It's scorching.
Yeah, scorching. Or, instead of saying it's cold,
It's freezing.
it's freezing. Yeah.
Or it's nippy.
Nippy. Yeah, there you go.
I like that one.
I like that one.
Yippee.
So it's good to kind of like expand your vocabulary
Absolutely.
and not just use the same
Right.
very, very basic terms.
Yeah, and it makes it a lot more fun
It does.
to use those more expressive terms.
Now, you were talking about how, these different words can actually kind of reflect different cultures.
Yeah.
So could you give us some examples of that?
Yeah, sure. So for example, in some cultures, extreme heat might be described using words that kind of convey danger or discomfort. Like, it's sweltering or it's suffocating.
Right.
But in other cultures, that same heat might be associated with, relaxation or energy or, something positive.
Right.
So it's really interesting how, like, the same weather phenomenon can be perceived so differently depending on the culture.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to some common phrases
Okay.
that people use when they're talking about the weather.
All right.
So we've got some really basic ones here, like, what's the weather like today? Or it looked like it's going to rain. But I'm curious,
Yeah.
is there a difference in how you would use these phrases
Ooh.
in different situations?
Yes.
Like, if you're talking to a friend versus if you're talking to your boss.
Absolutely. Like, context is everything. When you're talking to a friend, you can be a lot more casual.
Right.
Right. And you can use slang. You can use more like, expressive language.
Yeah.
But if you're talking to your boss,
Right.
you probably want to stick to more formal expressions, be a bit more professional in your language.
So it's all about kind of reading the room? Yeah, exactly. Knowing who you're talking to.
Yeah, reading the social cues.
Now, speaking of social cues,
Yeah.
I remember you telling me a funny story
Oh, yes.
about when you first started learning English
Oh, this is a good one.
and you misinterpreted a phrase.
I did. It was so embarrassing.
What happened?
Okay, so I was at a cafe, and it was raining really hard outside.
Okay.
And someone said to me, "It's pouring rain outside."
Uh-huh.
And for some reason in my head, I imagined someone, like, up in the sky
Oh, no.
with, like, buckets of water just pouring them out.
Oh, my God, man.
And I was like, who's pouring the rain?
Wow.
And they just looked at me like I was crazy.
That's hilarious.
It took me a while to realize that it just meant it was raining heavily.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, so those idiomatic expressions, they can be really tricky.
They can?
For language learners.
So the biggest takeaway here for our listeners
Yes.
who are trying to learn English is that,
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Like my pouring rain story.
right,
Everyone makes mistakes.
you've got to be able to laugh at yourself.
Exactly. And it's the best way to learn. Like, you make a mistake, you learn from it, and you move on.
So what else can our listeners do?
Well, go ye on the basics.
Right.
Don't just stick with sunny, cloudy, rainy.
Right.
Experiment with those more descriptive terms.
Uh-huh.
Be creative.
Like nippy.
Yes. Nippy.
And, I think it's also really helpful to just, like, pay attention to how native speakers are using these phrases.
Absolutely. Listen to how people talk around you.
Exactly.
And try to imitate them.
So next time you're talking to someone
Yes.
and you want to, make some small talk,
Yeah.
just talk about the weather.
It's a great conversation starter.
It is a great conversation starter, and it can actually lead to